vision, me see a way. Drastically straight from me progress, me I say, hey. Everyone to them own a philosophy. I live the proper way and then we read a chapter day, hey. What's up, y'all? I hope you're all good and feeling blessed today. Today, I want to share a little bit of advocacy with you. So, one of the things that I've noticed and have called out is a seeming concentration of poverty in certain neighborhoods. And some of it is done because other neighborhoods that once had this poverty are gentrifying. And the citizens that were of the margins in those communities, often the homeless, the mentally ill, those with drug issues, are no longer tolerated. Um, because now people are paying $1 million for their home, $800,000 for their town home, instead of renting an old Victorian that is falling apart, now renovated and beautiful. Um, and so those folks get pushed to other communities of color as existing communities of color stop being that. Um, Sacramento has recently had 3 homeless shelters sited within, I would say, around 4 miles of each other in rapid proximity to each other without knowing what the cumulative impacts could be. I personally have experienced huge kindness from homeless people when I was most down. I believe that the guidance in the Bible to, where I think it's Jesus that says, so as you treated the least of you, you treated me. Um, I believe that. And so I think that whatever the solutions for addressing homelessness are, they should be done in a humane way with, a view towards the homeless being our fellow human beings and deserve dignity and kindness. If my kids were ever to be homeless because of mental illness or what have you, I would want people to treat them with kindness. And so this isn't an anti-homeless video. I don't want them in my neighborhood. That's not what this is. They're um if you watch my other videos, you would say that I'm okay cohabitating with them. There's a creek, and some folks live on the creek that are fairly neat, and they put their garbage out, but no one picks it up, and so it stacks up and looks worse. And so I've advocated for sanitation provided to these camps on a regular basis, so that at least the burden on the community is not big. That said, I do think that government finds the path of least resistance to be communities of color. And so we face the brunt of unfavorable land use decisions. Um, and because of that, and because I've heard the same from people in other communities of color, I thought I would write a letter to the Attorney General after having seen articles where he's helped people in Fresno with their environmental justice issues with the Board of Supervisors there. And so that's where I got the idea from other people's wins, victories, hoping that they can be replicated here around this particular issue. And so I did create a draft of the letter, which I want to share and read here. And then encourage folks to, if they're facing similar issues, to take what is shared here and make it their own and also send in a letter. I've spoken to a lot of neighbors, and I do have business owners and neighbors of all ethnicities who have agreed to either sign on to this letter with me or to send their own letter. I plan to reach out to folks across the state who have similar issues and ask them to either take this and customize it to their community, but with the same basic message, or just add to this story. And it can be a 50-page letter with everybody's story in it, from everybody. It's not about one person. It's about everybody collectively saying, hey, this isn't cool to treat us like this. So here's my impression of what I see, um, as part of the solution to homelessness, which isn't really a solution in my opinion. Here goes the letter. So it's addressed to the Attorney General, Bonta. He's, I believe, a Filipino American Attorney General of California. And I've not heard anything negative about him. I don't know a lot about him, but where he has come up on my radar, it's been positive stories of equity, from him. So this letter isn't sent in anger to him. It's sent, um, with hope that he hears and appreciates it, because he's seen it and recognizes the pattern. Yeah, this isn't an angry letter to him. I've only heard good things. So, anyways, here goes. Dear Attorney General Bonta, I hope this letter finds you well and in good spirits. I am well, but worried that my community is being sacrificed to the benefit of other wealthier communities, specifically East Sacramento, Midtown, and Aggie Square, formerly North Oak Park. This dampens my spirit. Recently, South Sacramento was approved as the site for two homeless shelters, Florin and Power Inn and Florin and East Parkway, by the County Board of Supervisors, BOS. The city council also recently, within the last several years, approved a site next to a community center in a historically Black and marginalized neighborhood, Meadowview, also considered South Sacramento. In addition, the city purchased over 100 acres in this historically Black neighborhood as a potential site for a mega site of homeless services and low income housing. The following two links are clips of news stories that show residents of affluent East Sacramento and Midtown demanding that homeless services be concentrated in an already overburdened and marginalized community of color, South Sacramento, Meadowview specifically. South Sacramento is a diverse community of ethnic enclaves and shopping centers that include Little Saigon from Stockton Boulevard. It runs Stockton Boulevard from Fruit Ridge to Florin. The African Marketplace, or Black Wall Street, on 24th and Florin. Middle Eastern halal markets near the Big Mosque on 65th Street and Florin. Chinese grocers at 99 Ranch at Florin and Franklin. The Filipino shopping district at Mack Road and Highway 99. Mexican and Central American groceries, bakeries, and eateries dot all these neighborhoods along Mack, Florin, and Franklin corridors. And many others, including Fijian, Polynesian, and Caribbean grocers, also exist along Florin and Franklin. The primary high school serving the area is also on Florin and predominantly attended by children of color. So now you guys see what Florin is, and you also see that the shelters were put in the here. As you know, diverse communities, although beautiful, are often selected for land use projects that wealthier and better organized communities won't accept. If one looks at where homeless services and sites are being cited in Sacramento, those communities' demographics are largely people of color. The video link above shows a group of people that is seemingly lacking any people of color, pushing for a community of color as the site for concentrating the homeless. Mayor Steinberg responds that it would be unfair to cite all the homeless in South Sacramento. Despite the challenges of bringing people together to advocate, approximately 300 people showed up to advocate for Meadowview before the first shelter was sited there. It didn't stop it. It's now open on Mack Road And to the best of my knowledge, it has not caused any problems. It looks like a little jail, but I don't know that it's caused problems or attracted, issues. In fairness, that's to the best of my knowledge. However, with recent decisions by the Board of Supervisors to site 2 additional shelters on Florin Road, I fear a homeless highway is being created between the sites the city is operating and those the county is operating. At the first hearing to vote on the tiny home site on Florin and Power Inn, several Board of Supervisors members seemed unaware that another city managed site was only a few miles away and shared their concerns about concentrating poverty in one community. So the mayor, the Board of Supervisors, and the city council have acknowledged that it's not fair to concentrate them all in South Sacramento. But sometimes that doesn't stop things from happening anyways, and that's why this letter is necessary. Back to the letter. As you know, given the existence of an Environmental Justice Bureau within your office, communities of color have historically received the brunt of unfavorable land use decisions by local, regional, state, and federal governments. This pattern of systemic racism and environmental injustice is documented in places like the Sorrell Report, as well as many other government documents where it's self-admitted. It is the reason highways cut through mostly Black and brown communities. Highway 99, check it out, folks. Drive it and see what it goes through. Little Manila in Stockton's case. It's the reason Black and brown folks are more likely to live near pollution sources and experience the associated health impacts. Sacramento's local politicians have nominated several sites for homeless shelters in close proximity to schools, including elementary, that serve mostly people of color. This was in Northgate community, not South Sac, but another mostly Latino neighborhood. This has not been proposed for any schools serving well-off kids, and those neighborhoods are mostly white. I don't have no problem with white folks. Half my family is white, and so it's all good. Nothing but love. But that's the way the demographics show up on the census, and that's what the decisions favor. So, as mentioned, the school on Florin is a high school, and there's a light rail station across the street. And I would take the train to and from work, and so I would see who was going to that school, and it was, I would say, 90% kids of color, a lot of Polynesian kids, a lot of Black kids, a lot of Mexican kids, and now Arab folks too, and Southeast Asians. And a site was proposed for homeless shelters across the street from there. And I know there's a lot of empty land near where the private schools that are the most exclusive private schools, but they're in the city and there is land there. But I mean, it would never be considered to propose something there, but it was okay to propose it in front of this school that was mostly kids of color, right? So back to the letter. The purpose of this letter is to ask your office for a moratorium on the city council and board of supervisors citing any more homeless shelters or services in South Sacramento until we see the effects of them collectively citing 3 so near to one another and within such a short period of time. It should be noted that the homeless problem in South Sacramento was minimal until communities that were once marginalized ethnic enclaves like Alkali Flats, North Oak Park, Dos Rios, Southside Park were torn down, gentrified, or what have you, and the former denizens were no longer tolerated. Their displacement towards other existing communities of color like South Sacramento worked well with the Sacramento's marketing of itself as a world-class destination. The blight moved to neighborhoods without tourists. It does seem like South Sacramento is unfairly shouldering Sacramento's housing burden so the rest of the city can live affluently and peacefully. Having spoken with other advocates and residents throughout California, I believe the systemic racism is occurring statewide. As mentioned, the current status quo for citing shelters and other homeless services fits a historic pattern. The homeless also deserve better than being relegated to toxic corridors under freeways or near industry. I'm asking for homeless services and shelters to be distributed equitably throughout the city and with kindness towards the unhoused. Thank you for your consideration. And so that is the letter. I do have a lot of folks who will sign on to it, and I'll walk my neighborhood and knock on doors and talk to people. Um, and if someone wanted me to help them cater it to them, or even it was a counter message, I would help them because the point is for them to exercise their voice. Um, what I don't like to do is give my thoughts and ideas to people chasing grants in political favor, um, because knowing how to seem empathetic or caring when you're not is just being clever, and that's not what anyone should want to inflict on their community. So anyways, that's the letter. I'll probably reach out to some folks, content creators, and ask them what they think and if they would want to share it with their community if it has the same issues or even other similar issues. In Barrio Logan, they they are an environmental justice community with a history of fighting, and for them, it was the yonques, the junkyards. The government wouldn't let people put junkyards in other communities because Barrio Logan was where all the Mexican folks were at. And so they're like, well, just put them there. But, there's oil seeping into the ground, maybe going into the water table. I don't know the exact structure, but things like that happen. And now the community there has, you know, drinking water that is some of the most polluted in the state. And it's because things like that happen. So, um, that's one example. Um, in other communities, it's different things. But that said, I'm going to stop here and hope you like this video. And if you have similar issues in your community, I hope you take what you read, make it yours. I'll try to find a way to post it so that folks can copy it and send it in. Have a good one. Much love.